Good day guys, today I will be installing my Shelix helical cutterhead on this DW735 planer. So this is the helical cutterhead right here. It's quite the machining involved. No wonder it's expensive. So this helical cutterhead here cost me 700 Canadian pesos, and this planer here cost me 700 Canadian pesos as well. So it took me a while before I decided to take the plunge and buy this helical cutterhead. It came with this fancy sticker here, upgraded by Shelix. It came with some spare carbide cutters and a screwdriver. And that would be to, let's say you get a nail or something and you get a nick, well, you can loosen up that screw and just turn it once, and then you got a fresh knife again. So it came with this paper here, and then it says you can download the manual, which I did. It's a 9-page installation manual. So let's get going on this. Okay, number one, we have to take off this cover here. Number two, we got to remove these 3 bolts here that's holding the chip cover. Now we're going to remove the chip cover. Okay, number 3, we're going to remove all the screws, clamp bar, and the knives from the cutter head. You know where to bind them. Okay, number 4, now we need to remove this cutter head lock plate. These screws here, you got to make sure to get a good grip because the manufacturer used blue Loctite. So get a good grip, push hard on the screwdriver not to strip the heads. I'm going to hold some tension here just so that the spring doesn't pop out. I don't know, that's what the instructions said anyway. There's a spring back here. Oh, that was just a screw washer that fell down. Oh yeah, okay. So there's a spring right here. Okay, number 5, we need to remove the handle. There's just one screw holding the handle. Okay, number 6, we need to remove these 4 screws holding this cover here. These are very easy to come out, so when I'm going to put them back in, I'm going to use blue Loctite. And there's the cover. Okay, number 7, we need to unhook the tensioner spring. See, this is the tensioner spring here. So what it does, when the spring pulls, it puts tension on the chain here. Okay. So we need to remove this. A pair of needle nose should work pretty good. We'll just leave the spring hanging there so we don't lose it. Okay, number 8, we need to remove the 2 screws on the end of each shaft. So we're going to carefully remove this. Okay, number 10, we need to remove this belt from the pulley, but this chain tightener here is in the way, so there's only one screw, so we're going to remove this first, even though the manual doesn't talk about it. Yeah, there's some blue Loctite on there, for sure. You gotta push hard on the screwdriver, make sure not to strip the screw head. Alright, so that's out. Now we're gonna turn the pulley at the same time. See, we're getting there, we're getting there. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're at number 11. We need to remove this nut here. We're going to need a 22mm socket, and see what's going to happen. The pulley is just going to turn when we try to unscrew the nut. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so we're going to wedge a piece of wood here. There we go. So when we turn the nut, it's just going to hit the piece of wood and the cut head is not going to spin. Alright, number 12 is to slide the pulley off, and there's a key here that we got to be careful not to lose. Okay, so there's the pulley. I'm going to put the nut top here so we don't lose it. And there's a little key. So it was just sitting here, and we're going to make sure not to lose this either. And now we got to slide off the bushing. Alright, we'll keep this all together. Okay, number 13, we need to remove this snap ring. And this is where it really pays off to get some good quality snap ring pliers. This is the brand is Gray. You can get Snap-on. Whatever you do, don't buy snap ring pliers at Harbor Freight or Princess Auto or Crappy Tire, because they're not going to work very well. Look how easy that is with good tools. Okay, now we are on the opposite side of the planer, and number 14, remove the 3 screws and the cover. So there's 2 screws here and 1 over here. Okay, number 15. We need to remove the snap rings. This snap ring here and this one here. Number 17. Remove the chain and sprocket together. Okay, number 18. There's the left shaft here, and there's the right shaft, and there's a washer there. So we need to remove this washer here. Okay, number 19, we need to remove the 3 socket head screws. This one here, and this one, and that one. Now number 20, we're going to pull this gearbox out, but we're not going to pull it like completely right out. And we're just going to shift it side like that, and we're just going to leave it like this for now. Okay, number 21, we need to put a piece of wood here at the end of the shaft and take a hammer and tap out the shaft so that the cutter head can come out on the other side. now we are at step 22. As you can see, the Shelix helical cutterhead do come with bearings. I know some people say it didn't come with bearings, but mine came with bearings, so we don't have to worry about removing the bearings from the old cutterhead and putting it on the helical cutterhead. But you can see it did not come with the helical gear. So we need to remove this helical gear and put it on this cutterhead here. Okay, in the manual it says we can use here a 6mm socket to unscrew the helical gear, but it does say that the corners can round off very easily, so they suggest using a channel lock or a vice grip and carefully grab it by the shaft right here and unscrewing it from the shaft here. But first I'm going to try using this. I'm going to be very careful. I'm not going to put too much pressure to avoid rounding off the corner. So let's try this first. Okay, we're going to be careful not to round off the corners here. Oh, actually it was very easy. It was not tight at all. So there you go. This is the helical gear that's out, and now we're going to put it on the new Shelix Cutterhead. Okay, now it's time to assemble the new Shelix Cutterhead. So again, remember, this is the shaft where we took the piece of wood and we hammered it out this way. So it's gonna go back in the same way. And I'm using gloves here because these carbide cutters are really sharp. You just gotta be careful not to damage the carbide here. Okay, as you can see, the bearing seems to be seated really nice. Okay, I'm just curious to see how well that snap ring is going to fit in there now. Yeah, it's perfect. It's right in the groove there, no problem whatsoever. Okay, now I'm just going to check if the new cutter head spins freely, and it does. It's not hitting anywhere. It's nice and smooth. Looking good. So now we can start the reassembly. Okay, now let's put the gearbox back on. There we go. Okay, now we are going to install the 3-socket head, and I will be putting a little bit of blue Loctite. Okay, now we have to reinstall our washer that was on the right shaft. This is the left shaft, right shaft. So remember, we had a washer right here. Okay, now we have to put back the chain and sprocket. Now you can see these shafts here. There's a key slot here, there's a key slot here, and then this. You can see it's built into the sprocket. There's a key here and a key here. Now this shaft turns, this one doesn't. So we're going to put this sprocket on this shaft here first, because we can turn this. Now, because this one can turn, we can align the key to go in the slot. And there we have it. Now we're going to put the little spring on the tensioner. So we're going to get our little needle nose there. There we go, our tensioner is working again. Now we are going to put our little snap ring, like so. And there's the other snap ring. Okay, now we're going to reinstall the cover. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on these screws here. Okay, now we're back on the other side, and remember we need to put the bushing. Then we need to put our little key here. Here, I'll put a flashlight so you can see, and we're going to rotate the shaft up so you see the slot for the key. So that way when we put our key in, it's not going to fall off. It fits in there pretty tight actually, so there it is. And then we're going to put our pulley, and we're going to put back our nut here. Okay, before we put the nut back on, this cutter head will want to turn again. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a piece of wood. It's kind of hard, I'm holding the camera there. So when we're going to tighten the nut, it's going to try to turn, but the piece of wood here is going to stop it. Okay, now we're going to tighten that nut. We need a 24mm socket. And we're going to put a piece of wood there so that the cutter head doesn't turn, right? I don't think this needs to be too tight. Just give it a good snug there. It doesn't say in the book how tight to put it, but that should be good enough. Okay, the next step is to put that belt back on. There's the tricky part, right? She's tight, she's tight. There we go. Okay, this is how you do it. Push with your thumb right here. Careful not to get your thumb pinched. Okay, make sure you take a flashlight and check it really good. Make sure all the bumps on the belt line up in all the grooves of the pulley here. Okay, it's time to put back the chain and the sprocket. This shaft here does not turn. This one spins freely. So because of that, we are going to put the sprocket. There's a slot on the shaft, and there's a key built into the sprocket. So because this one turns, we're going to put this one here first. We're going to turn it until the key matches the groove, and there we go. There we have it. Okay, now we're going to put the screws back at the end of the shafts here. We're holding the sprocket. We're going to put a little bit of Loctite. Okay, we're going to put back the chain tightener. Again, I put some Loctite on the screw. Now remember, this screw is hard to take off, so we're going to put it nice and tight. Now we're going to put back our little spring here. There we go. Okay, now we are ready to put back our cover. 4 screws holding this cover, and I put Loctite on all of them. Okay, now we're going to put back the handle. Put back the screw. Again, I put some blue Loctite on this little screw here. Nice and tight. Okay, do you remember at the beginning of the video we removed here this Cutterhead lock plate? We're not going to reinstall this plate here. Okay, now we're going to reinstall our sawdust cover, or whatever it's called. And now our main cover. Remember, this is just plastic, so we're not gonna over torque these screws. Just a slight amount of pressure, that's good enough. Alright guys, this cutter head here came with a sticker, and it said upgraded by Shelix. So I was looking on a planer where to put it, and I think the best place to put it is over here. So I'm gonna hide the DeWalt label, but DeWalt does not deserve to have their label on this planer. It's really a shame, because if it came with good knives, this would be by far the best portable planer out there. And now it is, because I got the helical cutter head. But I mean, you know, they could have put some nice knives on there, 3/16 of an inch thick, but instead there's those tin garbage knives, and you plane hardwood with knots in it, that's it. You nick the knives right away. So you buy this planer and you cannot plane hardwood with knots in it. So what good is that? It's not good to me, because sometimes a piece of wood is beautiful with some knots in it, right? So anyways, let's put this sticker on here. And